Krajco was of the first survivors who talked about narcissistic abuse under her real name. She died unexpectedly in her home 2008. She was 56 years old. I suspect the narc hive mind was behind her death. In her book, What Makes Narcissists Tick?, Krajco says, "Narcissist always on the look." So, here I depart from conventional wisdom. I do understand why people misunderstand, because it took me forever to catch on. We make invalid assumptions about narcissists, assumptions you can't make about people from Pluto, who are always acting an alien premise. So, my only criticism of the mental health care professionals is that they go by the narcissist self-reports, the reports of pathological liars and fantasizers, and they fail to compare these self-reports with information from normal people who have had to live or work with a narcissist for a long time. The narcissists I have known are triggered by nothing but the opportunity to attack without fear of adverse consequences. In other words, they are predators, like wolves triggered by the mere scent of a lamb. Predators attack for a fundamentally different reason than other animals do. In fact, predators attack for no reason, they just target easy prey. They leave alone those who can injure them. They even back down from their usual prey if the intended victim puts up a big fight. That's predators. And narcissists, like psychopaths, are predators. They don't attack people they're mad at, they attack easy prey when the coast is clear. In fact, they are impossible to provoke. Yes. They aren't touchy, they're exceptionally thick-skinned when there are potential witnesses. They fear retaliation. Improbable as this seems, seeing is believing. So, go ahead, just try to provoke a narcissist. For example, confront one in the workplace. Though you are being perfectly civil and uttering no threats, merely facing him and calling him on the way he treats you and others will scare the socks off him. He will get so nervous his throat tightens. You will find yourself feeling sorry for the panicked look in his eyes. He will try to appease. And he will even be rational. Afterwards you will walk away amazed thinking, wow, I must be the first person in the world to stand up to him and live to tell about it. You'll probably be wrong, of course. Anybody can stand up to little big men and live to tell about it. It's like swimming with a great white shark. The first time he comes at you on his tasting a run, whack him on the snout. Thereafter, he leaves you alone. Is he an aber letting his big mean dogs run loose to terrorize the neighborhood and threaten other people's pets, infringing on your property and then destroying it to intimidate you if you won't let him? Okay, if that's the way he reacts to your being friendly, see how he reacts to your being an enemy. Get in his face with a bigger dose of his own medicine. Turn his dirty tricks on him. Show him that you'll fight fire with fire. You'll find that, like any bully, what he needs is one punch, in the nose, to send him home crying to his mama. It's the only language he understands. He will afterwards leave you alone and look for easy prey. Is he a sibling or parent? Test his irascibility. The next time he treats you like dirt, blow up in his face. Treat him with utter contempt and use the most abusive language you can think of. He won't explode. Yell him down and get right down to name calling. Call him a jackass and tell the bogeyman that's an asshole in the middle of his face. He will shock you by meekly and docilely taking it. He's only ferocious when he can sneak attack. This makes sense when you consider what is wrong with a malignant narcissist. He is a deeply wounded person, and he is just doing to vulnerable others what was done to vulnerable him when he was very young child. This is how he proves to himself that he is not that wretched little weakling. He can control his actions, but he cannot control his urges to trample people. The narcissists I have known remind me of an abused dog one of my past neighbors had. That dog came up to you every time it saw you, but always from directly behind your back. Once you had convinced it that you had eyes in the back of your head, you were safe. But nobody else, except its abusive master, was. I emphasize that I am only making a point, not advocating always getting in a narcissist's face. Though the only thing to fear is fear itself, it takes both courage and wisdom to deal with such people. For example, if the narcissist is a neighbor, you often can make him leave you alone by showing him that you will play by the same rules he does. That's because a neighborhood is usually not a crucible. He can easily play pretend to unknow it happened and forget you exist. The world is full of easier prey. The workplace and the home are crucibles though. Does he have an out? If not, when Mr. Paranoid crawls off to lick his wounds, in his secret rage he may blow a gasket and decide to get back at you by attacking in a bigger way than ever before. It will be a sneak attack, of course, conducted with great and cowardly stealth from behind your back. And the only rein on a narcissist's conduct is what he thinks he can get away with, so he is as dangerous as a furious 5-year-old with a gun. This does not mean that you should keep turning the other cheek. As with terrorists, that is the worst thing to do. But it does mean that you must carefully analyze every aspect of the situation and devise a smart, goal-oriented plan, taking steps to protect yourself from anything he could possibly do. Apparently, in the workplace the most successful strategy is for his fellow workers to just get together and compare notes. Once everybody has his number, he sees a different image of himself reflected in the mirrors around him and flees. If he is a spouse or lover, it is vitally important not to let him become too attached and dependent on you as a source of ego gratification. This means that the first time he flies into a rage at you or lays a hand on you should be the last. Abandon him immediately. At that point you are still easy to forget, so he'll think, "Yikes, that little critter bites back," and go off in search of easy prey. What's more, if the narcissist's rage were provoked, the narcissist couldn't turn it on and off like a light switch. But he can. The unexpected arrival of witnesses quells a narcissist's rage in a split second. No exaggeration. Which proves it's just a bogeyman act. Terrorism. For example, if you come round a corner and surprise kitty sneaking up on a mouse, that scared cat arches its back and stands every fur on end to look at least 3 times its actual size, big enough to really hurt you. It bares its teeth and hisses, staring right through your eyes with an evil look that horrifies you, standing your hair on end. That's terror tactics, victory through scaring the enemy to death. That's why, if you make yourself know that it's just a cat and step towards it saying, "Boo," it runs away. Just like a narcissist does. So, a narc attack is usually a totally unprovoked attack and is always a surprise attack. The narcissist catches you off guard with an off-the-wall and shocking reaction to something. Often, the narcissist attacks for an anti-reason. By that I mean, he or she is provoked to attack the other party by behavior that would gratify a normal person. Shock tactics. They disarm you, so that you can't really believe what's happening. They perplex you. Before you know what's going on, he has run you over. He's an expert at doing this, because he began doing it to his playmates when he was 4. Whether lashing out in a small way at a neighbor, customer service representative, or colleague, or lashing out in a big way at a family member, narcissists give the impression that they had been laying in the weeds to strike unexpectedly. And when they strike, they let fly a remark or act so far beyond the bounds of decency that it stuns the victim, who wonders where the hell that came from. It's as though, behind their angel face, they have an attack dog at the end of his leash, one that, without warning, they loose at the unsuspecting. Proof that the Leviathan lies just beneath the surface can be seen in the fact that, if the narcissist is fatigued, half-wakened from sleep, or has his inhibitions lowered by alcohol, one might as well try to get along with Eddie Scissorhands. There is nothing you can say or do at such times that he won't attack you for as some sort of offense or intolerable imposition. The more you try to appease him, the madder he gets. He is not bound by reason or the standards of common decency. So, he doesn't care how bizarre, irrational, and outrageous his behavior and assertions are. In short, acting crazy isn't beneath him as it is beneath you and I. To the contrary, acting crazy is his secret weapon. The pathological space of one narcissist I know about was a school. He was a counselor. Over time, the women caught on that he was useless. Not only did he abuse students in his classes, but when teachers went to him with information about kids being bullied, picked on, or sexually harassed by their peers, His reply invariably was that he would have a talk with them but that there little anyone could do about it because the victim was, vulnerable. Intoned the word vulnerable softly and dramatically so it resonates with an aura of great significance. According to him, people just couldn't help but attack anyone vulnerable. Another narcissist was a woman I had known for decades. One day, not long after I discovered that she was dragon in disguise, the opposite of the good person she made a big show of being, she called, shaken and upset about a colleague who had let into her calling her the most distasteful person he ever met. She was meek and hurt as a tender little child. Though I had seen this stunning transfiguration 207 a few times before, it amazed me as much as it had. The first time I saw this goose-stepping rager turn into a meek and hurt little child. So, fascinated, I listened. From what she told me and from my knowledge of her track record, I could make out what happened to make this man so angry. She admitted that she had not been nice to him. Her excuse was that she couldn't stand his looks. She said that he had a certain look some people have, that just sets her off. She didn't know why. She reminded me of a former boyfriend she had gone off at and tore down till she had reduced him to burning tears. Her story on that episode was that, once she let her rip and tore into a person, she couldn't stop herself till there was just nothing left of that person at all. She eventually described this look that set her off as a dumb look. But I knew most of her victims, so afterwards I looked for a common denominator in them. They were not stupid, they were vulnerable. Every one was a person who had been sweet to her, someone her abuse would deeply hurt. But, upon reflection, I saw that vulnerability isn't her only trigger. Opportunity is what arms her weapons. The opportunity to have one of these scenes in the dark and behind closed doors where there are no witnesses. So, I take exception to the assumption that malignant narcissists act on normal human premises. Normal people attack when threatened. They do this on the premise that it will back off the aggressor. Narcissists attack the vulnerable whenever the coast is clear. They do this on the premise that stomping others makes them God Almighty. It conveniently slips their minds that stomping someone smaller or gentle or defenseless is no more godlike than stomping an ant. And so, narcissists are always on, as they say. That is, inside Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde is ever on the lookout for a moment when the coast is clear and it's safe to come out. So, the dulled perceptions of narcissists are selectively dulled. Their total self absorption tunes out only certain kinds of information that they're disinterested in. It doesn't tune out strategic information like how many people are around, whether they are within earshot, whether anybody can see what the narcissist is doing, and so forth. The brain adapts. Over time, it becomes truly hard for a narcissist to focus on some kind of information he normally blocks out, even when he wants to keep it from getting blocked out with the rest of the background noise in the environment. Like the sound of your voice. Try as he may, he can't tune in that signal well enough to focus on whether he is to get red wine or a white for super. But that cognitive dysfunction doesn't affect the reception of strategic information. That he is constantly acutely aware of so that he knows instantly when the coast is clear and a vulnerable target of opportunity is in sight. Can you imagine what life would be like in a minute like that? That's like stalking mode. Even predatory animals aren't in that mode all the time. But a narcissist is.